You can deny it all you want, but I know you were cheating. You deceived my son, you wicked woman." My mother-in-law hurled these unbearable insults at me as she grabbed my hair and forcibly shaved it with electric clippers. Why did I have to endure such humiliation on my wedding day? But I'm not weak enough to be broken by something like this. Just watch, my husband and I will overcome this kind of trouble easily with the power of our love. My name is Serena, and I'm 40 years old. My hobby is looking up popular recipes online and cooking them for my family. To be honest, sometimes I find preparing meals every day to be a bit tiresome. But I enjoy seeing my family's happy faces when they eat. I'd like to share my story about the struggles I went through before creating my family. About 10 years ago, I was going to marry Aaron, my boyfriend of 4 years. The reason was that I was pregnant with his child. To be honest, we were both busy with work and couldn't quite decide when to get married, so time just passed by. Being conscious of my age, I had worried that maybe our relationship will end with just dating. Then came the happy news of my pregnancy, which gave us the courage to take that step toward marriage. Even now, people sometimes say, if you hadn't gotten pregnant, you wouldn't have gotten married, right? Even if that were true, I ended up getting pregnant, getting married, and being happy now, so this must have been destiny. While we thought the pregnancy was a good opportunity, both sets of parents had rather severe reactions. My parents just repeatedly asked, "Are you sure you'll be happy?" and worried about me, but the real problem was my husband's parents. Apparently, they had been trying to arrange a marriage between my husband and Nellie, the daughter of their friends. She was supposedly like his promised bride until around high school. What an outdated notion. Of course, Nellie wasn't particularly interested in my husband either, and their parents' wishes were apparently just a nuisance to them. Eventually, when they went off to college, they both left their family homes, and the marriage talk fizzled out. As soon as I went to formally greet them about our marriage, my mother-in-law hung her head saying, "How did this happen?" And my father-in-law just said, "Well, can't be helped," showing no signs of welcoming me. About my pregnancy, while they were happy about having a grandchild, they seemed to deeply regret that I was the mother, showing mixed feelings. They said, "We'll accept the marriage, but never forget that you're able to get married thanks to us," which made my heart heavy. My husband got angry, saying, "You don't need to say such nasty things," but his parents apparently meant no harm and brazenly said it was just like advice for becoming a bride. I wanted to marry my husband. But needless to say, I regretted that I was marrying into such a troublesome family. The days that followed were really difficult. First, there was the wedding. Due to my pregnancy and work considerations, I wanted to proceed with the preparations quickly. However, my in-laws kept interfering, asking about everything. "Have you decided on the dress? What about the venue? What about the costs?" They insisted on coming along to choose the venue and kept saying we should reduce costs, among other things. Their opinions kept changing, so they weren't helpful at all, and things just wouldn't move forward. Still, somehow my husband and I managed to plan a wedding close to what we wanted. When they persistently said, "You must show us when you've chosen your dress," and I reluctantly showed them photos from my fitting, my mother-in-law immediately said, "Oh my, you're planning to appear in public with such an unsightly belly." This was an incredibly insensitive comment about my gradually showing pregnancy. If I were just fat, I'd reflect on it, but I'm pregnant, what can I do? When my husband scolded her saying, "Mom, come on," she quickly said, "Oh, I didn't mean any harm," but her tone suggested otherwise, and there was no apology. Instead, she added, "But you know, I'm saying this for Serena's own good. You're still young, so it's better to stay slim." My mother-in-law made many unnecessary comments, like how she was slimmer when she was pregnant, and that pregnancy wasn't an excuse. I had noticed they were proud people, but to say such rude things without apologizing? It's amazing how my husband turned out so normal with these parents. Maybe they served as an example of what not to be. I just couldn't bring myself to like these haughty in-laws who looked down on people and never apologized. Well, it seemed the feeling was mutual. However, they were apparently excited about their upcoming grandchild and got carried away choosing names on their own. If I had a good relationship with my in-laws, perhaps I might have let them choose the baby's name, but at this point, I was determined to absolutely refuse, no matter what. After all, every time they opened their mouths, all they did was harass me. They would say things like, "If he had married Nellie, we wouldn't have had to worry about the wedding. We can't help but interfere because we have such a dim-witted daughter-in-law," or "Even if you're pregnant, getting fat arms in addition to your belly shows poor self-control. Our son deserves better than such a wife," or "Nellie was beautiful, so the grandchild would have been cute too, but with this wife." It was a constant stream of words that could be either harassment or insults. While they constantly criticized me, they would also say things like, "Oh, we must be the first to hold the baby." Absolutely. Don't you dare think about letting your parents hold it first. Every time I met them, I grew to dislike my in-laws more and more. My husband would properly scold his parents, but it was like nailing jelly to a wall. Seeing this, I really felt that marriage isn't just about loving your spouse. There are parts that won't work out with just that. Though I'm sure not all in-laws are like this family, I still think the daughters-in-law of this world are amazing. One day, as I was managing to deflect my in-laws' snide remarks and harassment, and the wedding was approaching, I suddenly received a phone call from my mother-in-law. "Hey, Serena. I saw you today." "Oh. Yes, I was out shopping." "Don't lie. You were out with a man." "What? What are you talking about?" "Oh, if you're talking about the man I was with, that was my brother." Still piling on the lies. "His hairstyle was clearly different from your brother's." "When you met my brother before, he had an almost shaved head. He grows his hair out when it gets cold." "Stop making excuses. Forget it." With that, my mother-in-law hung up abruptly, ignoring my protests. The person I went shopping with really was my brother. But apparently, she wouldn't believe me. My mother-in-law was convinced I was betraying my husband and playing around with another man. My father-in-law probably thought the same. Actually, knowing those haughty people, even if they realized it was a misunderstanding, they probably wouldn't admit it. As I was wondering what to do, a few days later, my in-laws summoned my husband and me to their house. The topic was, of course, my alleged affair. Though it was a misunderstanding. My husband already knew I was going out with my brother, so he didn't doubt me at all. However, no matter how much my husband explained, my in-laws kept calling me an immoral woman and demanded we cancel the wedding. They said they wouldn't acknowledge the baby either since they didn't know whose child it was. I love my husband, and we're having a baby. I only dislike my in-laws, and the affair was just their misconception. To have the wedding cancelled over something like this is ridiculous. Both my husband and I repeatedly explained to my in-laws that it was my brother, but they wouldn't believe us at all. Finally, my husband snapped at his parents, "I believe Serena, and that's what matters. Parents shouldn't interfere." This made them reluctantly withdraw their demand to cancel the wedding. Though they added unnecessary comments like, "Don't blame us if you end up unhappy." After that, since they convinced themselves it wasn't their grandchild, they apparently lost interest in the baby, and contact from my in-laws decreased significantly. Thanks to that, life became more manageable, and all that was left was the wedding day. However, an incident occurred on the wedding day. Stop. Mother-in-law, please stop. It hurts. Before the ceremony, when I happened to be alone in the waiting room, my mother-in-law suddenly appeared and roughly grabbed my hair. For some reason, she was holding electric clippers, and their mechanical sound echoed through the room. Cancel the ceremony, you cheater, what? I told you the affair was a misunderstanding. You just met my brother earlier, didn't you realize that was him? Shut up. If I say you cheated, then you cheated. Admit it already. I couldn't move, with my hair twisted up above my head. I couldn't even move my face and was stuck sitting while restrained by my mother-in-law. Whatever you say, I know you were cheating. You deceived my son, you wicked woman. Saying this, my mother-in-law put the clippers to my hair. With a buzzing sound, my hair was being cut off. Some parts were still long, while others were so sparse they looked bald from a distance. There was no way I looked like a bride who should be having her wedding today. Serves you right. Now you won't think about having the ceremony. Hurry up and tell my son to cancel it. I'll get ready to go home. Laughing, my mother-in-law left the waiting room. I was frustrated. From her tone, she had probably realized the affair was a misunderstanding after meeting my brother. But due to her proud nature, she didn't want to admit her mistake. That's why she wanted me to falsely confess to cheating. While she was at it, she probably wanted to break us up and have him marry Nellie. As if things would work out so conveniently. Looking at my pitiful reflection in the mirror, I started to cry. No, this isn't the time for crying. Let me teach them that the world isn't so easy. I vowed in my heart that I absolutely wouldn't cancel this wedding. When it was time for the ceremony and I made my entrance according to the announcer's cue, the venue buzzed with whispers. That's no surprise, since my husband and I had been holed up in the waiting room until just before the ceremony, and rumors were spreading that the bride might be calling off the wedding last minute because of some trouble. Well, my husband and I were the ones who spread those rumors to deceive his parents. Of course people would be stirred up. Seeing me enter with a smile, my mother-in-law stood up and shouted, "Why?" My father-in-law sat beside her, dumbfounded. They probably believed without a doubt that the ceremony would be cancelled. As if we would cancel it. Now, before we begin, the bride Serena would like to share some special thoughts with the groom's parents that she wanted to express today of all days. The venue buzzed again at this sudden development of the bride reading a letter to her in-laws where there should have been a welcome speech. My in-laws seemed to have nothing but bad feelings about this, already turning pale. Though they were shouting, "Stop, stop it." I couldn't care less. With microphone in hand and a bright smile on my face, after brief greetings, I expressed my thoughts to my in-laws. To Aaron's father and mother. Thank you so much for warmly welcoming me as a member of your family. The moment I started speaking, I could see my in-laws' expressions relax. They probably thought I was going to try to curry favor with them. Perhaps because I was lacking in some way, even though it's my wedding day. As you can see, my mother-in-law forcibly shaved my head. When I removed my veil to show my nearly bald head, the venue erupted in commotion. Though people had probably noticed through the veil that my hair wasn't properly styled, no one would have expected such a miserable, nearly bald appearance. Everyone was shocked at my devastated hair. How terrible, voices rose from the guests. When my mother-in-law saw me walking with my brother, she mistook it for an affair, and this is what happened. I also shared all the other abuse and insults they had thrown at me. Thanks to this, my mental strength has grown, and I've saved the trouble of going to the hair salon. Thank you, father-in-law, mother-in-law. By the time I smiled again after saying this, my in-laws could only hold their heads and look down. While the guests chuckled at how I had forcibly turned this into a story of gratitude, they gave cold looks to my in-laws. What is this? Weren't you supposed to cancel the ceremony? What is this harassment? My mother-in-law stood up, trembling and raising her voice in a half-crazed state. Harassment? What do you mean? I just stated the facts and properly expressed my gratitude. How is this gratitude? Besides, neither my husband nor I ever considered canceling. Why did you assume we would break up? What? But normally, when parents oppose this strongly, you'd break up, right? To my mother-in-law, who seemed utterly confused, my husband said, yes, normally in this situation, if anyone's breaking up, it would be with the parents. What? My mother-in-law let out a dumbfounded voice. My father-in-law beside her also looked blank. Today is both our wedding ceremony and our ceremony of severing ties with parents. Do you understand what you're saying? To my father-in-law's question, my husband answered, of course. After the wedding, Serena and I are moving away. We won't let you meet our child either. That was the plan all along. What do you mean? My last act of filial piety was this wedding. Once it was over, I was planning to distance ourselves from you for Serena's sake. But to think you'd even resort to electric clippers. This isn't just about distance anymore, we have no choice but to cut ties completely. My husband had told me from the beginning to please bear with it until the wedding. Even before they accused me of cheating, we had decided that after the wedding, we would distance ourselves from his parents and not tell them where we were moving to. If they had found out, they would have come along to view potential homes just like with the wedding preparations, but they were focused on the wedding preparations. Or rather, we managed to direct their attention that way so they wouldn't notice. We could move and disappear right after the ceremony ended. Are you serious? Surely cutting ties is going too far. My mother-in-law's face turned pale again. I'm serious, my husband nodded firmly. I'm grateful for raising me. That's exactly why I begged Serena to invite you both to the wedding. Considering how you've treated her, I honestly think you shouldn't even have been invited to the ceremony. Serena allowed your attendance without saying anything, yet Mom, you did this terrible thing to her. And you won't even apologize. I wasn't planning to cut ties completely, but now my mind is made up. At my husband's words, my in-laws raised their voices saying reconsider, but my husband quietly called the staff and told them, please escort them out. The in-laws were surrounded by staff and led outside while making a huge fuss. Afterward, I put on a wig and we redid the wedding with some program changes. Of course, we removed the part about my husband's letter to his parents. Though it was a chaotic ceremony, my husband's friends who understood the situation helped liven things up, and my brother even sang a song on short notice. Thanks to everyone's kindness, I think it turned into a really wonderful ceremony. In the end, I was filled with more happiness than I had expected, and tears welled up in my eyes. I truly felt from the bottom of my heart that I was glad I married my husband. After the ceremony, we managed to shake off my in-laws who were waiting outside and escaped from the venue. From there, my husband and I headed to our new home in a friend's car. Since then, we haven't met my in-laws even once. Though I think they probably have ways to find their son, those proud people probably don't want to feel like they've lost by going that far to find their son. However, it seems they want to reconcile with my husband, as they regularly send letters to his workplace saying things like, "Don't come crying back to us. but we might forgive you if you're willing to apologize. Such prideful letters full of false bravado. How inconsiderate to use his workplace for this. Well, no matter how many letters they send, we just ignore them. Since then, we've had a daughter and a son. They're both in elementary school now. Our daughter is such a tomboy, you'd think we had 2 sons. Meanwhile, our son loves cooking and helps with housework. He's grown into such a kind child. The other day, he said, "Mom looked busy, so I folded the laundry for you," and I almost burst into tears. He'll make a wonderful husband someday. Our daughter is also good at taking care of her little brother. "Hey, I told you playing in the mud is only for outside. You need to wipe your feet," she'll say. "Okay, big sis. Thank you." Though they have their squabbles sometimes, they're very close siblings. Both are precious and dear children to my husband and me. When these children bring home their special someone someday, I'll make sure to treasure their partners, learning from my in-laws' example of what not to do. I'm already looking forward to that future when our family grows with new members. And I've sworn in my heart never to become a parent like my former in-laws were. I won't judge my children's partners based on their appearance or background alone. I'll look at their character and respect their relationship. Even if there are things I don't like, I'll make sure to treat them with love. Above all, wishing for my children's happiness and always being on their side, that's my parental creed. Of course, I won't be a perfect parent. There may be times when I make mistakes and hurt my children. But when that happens, I'll apologize sincerely. And I'll remember my fundamental principle: I don't want to be like my former in-laws. I believe my husband feels the same way. The chaos at our wedding became an important lesson for us. Forcing your love on someone in the name of family isn't true love. Respecting others and showing genuine understanding is essential in building a family. My husband and I learned these simple but important things from his parents. Now we're applying those lessons to raising our children. Going forward, we'll continue to use my former in-laws as an example of what not to do, striving to be loving and tolerant parents. I'm determined to work hard every day to be the kind of parent who makes our children want to say thank you from the bottom of their hearts.